Welcome to Hidden World Interdimensional Imaging. This is Valerie Shiva and Stephen Leeah, and we're here to talk about a UAP video I took on July 5th of this year, less than 2 weeks ago, right from my front yard. And so I'm going to explain how I did that or the circumstances behind it, and then we're going to delve into the video itself. And then Stephen's quantum run on that video. So first off, I'm going to talk about the circumstances of taking the video. So it was a little before 8 p.m. in Maryland, July 5th. I was running a sprinkler in my front yard and happened to look up, just change the position of the sprinkler that was actually hitting my front porch, but also hitting my flower bed that was in line with my porch. And I happened to glance up when I was in my yard and I see what I believed was a UAP, UFO craft, was probably about, I would estimate, maybe 300 feet up, several feet in diameter, a big black object that was just moving across, and there was no wings or anything, no sound or anything like that. When I saw it, when I was looking at it, it actually put up an appendage, one wing appendage that didn't move. It just went up like it was trying to pretend to be a bird. It was a flimsy wing. It didn't move at all. It almost looked like it was made out of paper. And I wanted to keep watching this because it was close enough that I could see those details. But I decided I better go in and get my cell phone and record it. I knew my cell phone was right inside the front door and I couldn't get my Nikon out. There's no time for that. There's no time to turn off a sprinkler. So I just decided to not look anymore and go and grab my camera. And that's the problem. I think a lot of people say, how come they didn't get a video of this UAP they said they saw? That's how it doesn't happen, because people get so fixated on what they're looking at, they can't take their eyes off of it.
Exactly.
But I forced myself to take my eyes off, ran in, and so probably 30 seconds went by between me grabbing the phone, coming out. And so when you see the raw video without zooming in or anything, when you see that and you hear me talking about this fact that it's not a bird. Well, I recognize that it wasn't a bird, and I'll get in more into detail in a little bit about why I knew it wasn't a bird. It is based on other ones I've seen that were similar. But about 30 seconds went by. This object was moving at least 30 miles an hour. So imagine that you're on the road and you're stationary and you see a car moving 30 miles away, 30 miles an hour past you while you're stopped. How far away that object can get in a very short time, even in 30 seconds. It can get quite a ways away. So by the time I came back out on my porch and had the camera icon going on my phone and I'm pointed, I can't see it anymore. So I'm just pointing towards that direction with my cell phone, kind of zooming in, trying to see it. And
Right.
it's a 38-second video. So the first time when I play it, I will show it in its full, the full video. And then the second time I play it, I'm going to zoom in, trying to pause and like show you actually what it looks like.
Okay, great.
So I'm going to share that recording with you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and it's going to be this is not zoomed in or anything. You're going to hear me explaining, what I'm seeing and kind of being very excited about it. That is not a bird. That's not a bird. The object's in there. It's not. Oops. The damn camera came back. It's a big black object that came over. Incredible. That is not a bird. I'm just amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. I can't see it with the naked eye. And my camera's getting wet. It was a big black object. Where'd it go? I'm going to play this again. I'm going to share that video and play it again, but this time I'm going to zoom in on the object. So here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and this time I'm going to
Not a bird.
pause. There it is right there. Let me back it up a little bit.
That is not a bird.
Now you can see that the object, if I zoom in on this, there's going to be a bird that flies by here any second. And
Yeah,
when you
that's
see
actually perfect because it
right,
gives you the example.
because you'll see the difference between this little gliding, these things glide,
Right,
gliding object, and you can tell by looking at it when I zoom it in that it looks almost vertical here. Sometimes it looks horizontal, but this is like a rounded object or an oblong object.
right,
Whereas the bird clearly is going to be bobbing up and down, flapping wings. And so we'll
right,
see that. And I'm going to kind of like,
That's not a
I'm going to try to keep this in, because the camera's kind of moving around. There's the bird. Now, when
yeah,
you see the
right,
bird, I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. When you see the bird's going to be flying, and you'll see the comparison to this object. Let me do that again.
right,
So I'm not able to see this object with my eyes. I'm just pointing the camera at it. And so I managed to capture it through most of the 38-second video. And there's actually another UFO that shows up in this right around second 9. There it is right there. This happens in a lot of my videos where I'll be capturing many things at the same time. So it shows up as kind of a slanted object here. And as it plays out, like if I go another second there, it moved right over there.
right,
And so
right.
we're not going to be talking about that object, but that's just one example of how things are happening all the time.
Yeah, that's a known syndrome with these things. With some of the research I've done, where there's one, there's others.
Right.
Usually a binary or even a whole fleet. It's just some of them can't be seen unless it's on the camera. With the naked eye, you may see one UFO, but on the camera it may show this secondary.
And yeah, and they're moving so fast, your eyes are never going to pick it up. This one
Right,
was moving about, I would estimate 30 miles an hour. And so I could see it when it was right over my neighborhood. I
right.
mean, at a
This
distance, I
other
would have,
slanted one seems like it was a lot faster. Would you agree?
yes.
Faster?
No, if I played this at normal speed, you would never see it. So I'll back it up just like a second or two, and we can
Oh,
see it
wow.
as it's
Yeah,
entering the frame, but you'll never see it.
yeah. So it's
Did you
moving
see it?
much faster than,
Right.
yeah,
These things are moving so fast that the one slanted one, and it could be, and I'm not going to speculate too much, but a lot of people, there's these Navy pilots that have seen things and they've said, oh, they're going so fast, they dropped 60,000 feet, in a second.
right,
These things may not be in our space time. It may be appearing to be, they're just slipping through maybe another dimension and just showing up. And so
right,
they may appear to be going, faster than any of our technology, but it's our technologies, and they may indeed be. But at the same time, they could be outside, just right outside of our time space, where they're appearing to be going super fast.
right.
So I'm losing the object. There it is again. So I'm kind of losing it, and I'm moving the camera around. I'm going to turn my volume down here. But there it is, still there. And I'm going to actually see if I can slow this down too. Let me move it back a little bit and try to slow it. And push play here. Now it's going a little slower. I'm going to try to bring it back into view here. There it is, right there. It's going to move all the way across here. And yeah, there's no way that I could have actually continued to see this with the naked eye. It's just, our vision is very limited as humans. The camera is still picking it up. Try to zoom in a little bit more on that. So it's going to move all the way over until it just disappears from view. And this is considerably slower. I mean, this is only a 38-second video, but like the slowing down process is probably making this into a 2-minute video. But you can see that it's not following. Does this look like a bird to you, Stephen?
No. No, I've seen enough of these. You get an intuitive feel for what's a bird in the far distance and what is something that is anomalous, and you just you can begin to tell, and it's showing a bit of a warp signature around it, that halo effect,
Right.
that creates the what some would think is digital noise artifacts, compression artifacts. It's actually part of the space-time metric involved with these things, that at first glance it might look like noise around the object, but in reality it's your camera trying to make sense of something that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So here I had zoomed in. I didn't know, I couldn't see it, but I was still trying to see it. Let me zoom out a little bit. There it is. Now in the quantum run that we're going to look at later, we're going to see that this thing wobbles a lot. It seems to change shape, which indicates that it's unstable. It's not a stable shape. So there it is. It's still moving across. And it's almost out of view. So what Stephen managed to capture from this, I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. So that was the version of that July video that I took. And now I'm going to explain why I'm convinced that that video had a UAP in it. And I actually have seen these many times before. I've seen them 3 times with my own eyes, the third time being July 5th. The first time I saw one was in March of 2020. I'm not going to go into the backstory of that, but I have actually caught these on video, not even intentionally catching them. I'm always pointing to the same point in the sky, which is the western sky. And the next video that I'm going to show is actually going to show a group of at least 30 of these things, and they're rotating. So some would say these are balloons, but not being a scientist, I still have seen balloons going across the sky. Okay. And if you have a group of balloons, they're all going at the same speed. They're all together going at the same speed if they're all released at the same place, right? They might disperse some. They're not going to go, some are not going to decide to go a different direction.
Right.
Okay. And I can say for sure that the object that I saw was an object that was powered. There was no sound coming from it. There was no propellers as if it were a drone. There was nothing like this. It was a solid black object about 3 or 4 feet in diameter, but had that one fake appendage thing that came up that didn't move. And then when I went to get my camera, I came back out and then I can't see it anymore. Well, the reason why I think it's a UAP is because of that, but also because I have captured these things before on video. And so what I'm getting ready to show you is a group of about 30 of these things. Now, they're way out in the cloud line. Some of them are kind of disappearing behind the clouds. They are rotating. They're not, the balloons won't rotate. They won't, some of them won't decide to go in another direction. They won't be under power. They'll go
Right.
with wind. So I'm going to show that next video. And at some point, I'm going to try to slow this down. So I'm going to zoom in on this because, like, when I took this video, I actually could not see what was there. This video was taken on January 10th, 2023. And today is July 14th, 2024. So about a year and a half ago. And I just simply pointed my camera towards the western sky. And later on, I saw these objects showing up in the video.
That's breathtaking. I
Yes.
mean, wow.
People could say these are balloons, okay? But I'm going to zoom in on them and you'll see that there's a rotation effect going on. Some of them are flying that way. Some of them are flying this way. Some of them are flying towards the clouds. And then some are trailing off. You can see objects like here and there. And if you can actually see some of them going, you know, further to the north, because this is like they're going northwest. So I'm going to go ahead and play this at full speed, and then I'm going to, you'll see that they're moving, and people could say they're birds too, but when I zoom in on these things, there's no wings. And we're talking about, they're probably a couple miles away, I'm guessing, because they're in the cloud line. Like if I zoom back out, you'll see how far they are. They're way over here. Okay. So birds, I've never seen birds do this before. I've seen birds, yes, go in circling prey or whatever, but they're flapping, they're doing different bird types things, bobbing up and down. There's none of that.
Right.
This is simply a gliding, sometimes certain angles are being used. But I'm going to play it at full speed at first. And it's hard to follow because they're going so fast. But you can kind of see that they're rotating. So this time I'm going to replay that, but I'm going to slow it down so you can more see the patterns and see, you know, zoomed in, slow down. And it's kind of hard. I mean, for one, seeing it at full speed, you see that they're moving very fast. There's a rotation pattern going on. And this is not uncharacteristic of a flock of birds or balloons. And as far as this being regular drones, well, I've actually seen one of these things through binoculars before in 2020. And they are not drones. They are like egg-shaped, coal black, very shiny, something that you would see probably in an alien movie. I mean, that's what it looked like through binoculars.
Yeah.
That's the one I saw in March of 2020 during COVID when I was out and went to a convenience store and saw some blackbirds flying and saw one that looked weird. And I had my phone turned off. I guess this is the backstory of the one I started to say earlier. Had my phone turned off because we were told, do not leave your home, stay at home orders, unless it's for essential reasons. I was afraid I was being tracked by our government. So I kept my cell phone off. But when I saw this, I had a pair of binoculars in my car because I use binoculars for bird watching and different things. I grabbed them, looked through, and this thing had filled up the entire binoculars. The shiny object going across Highway 97 near my home. And that was another case where I want to keep watching. I do not want to stop watching through my binoculars because I knew as soon as I tried to get my phone powered up, it was going to take a bit and then get my camera going. And by then I knew it was going to be distance away. And that's what you have to fight within yourself when you're trying to capture a video, because you're spellbound really with what you're seeing. It's not normal, it's otherworldly. And when I knew it was something that was not from this world. But I forced myself at that point to take a video. So I have seen these things up close. These ones actually, I'll show an image in a bit that will show a close-up of them and their shape. These are not birds. Okay, but I'm going to play this again. And this time I'm going to slow it down. Let's see here. Go ahead and play. Now, this is a lot slower. Just watch the
That's
rotation.
crazy.
You notice some of them are moving that way, some of them are moving
Right,
that way, and
right.
they seem to be in a kind of a rotation.
Wow.
I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on them. Oops, lost it.
Well, look how that one is very pronounced.
Which one? It's,
The one kind of in the middle that's very pronounced and steady. But then
right.
he starts morphing out. Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, and some of these are going into the clouds. Like you'll see some kind of disappear, and I believe they're going into
Uh-huh.
the cloud. And then some of them are trailing behind. Like, I mean, I could watch this all day. I gave this to somebody last year, and that person said he watched it 100 times. It was totally mesmerized by it. It was one of our team members, Dave Wilkinson. He said he
Wow.
just had to he put it on a big monitor and he had to keep watching it because he was mesmerized.
Yeah,
Some of them are,
it is mesmerizing.
yeah, some of them are trailing off to the right and separating. And so I believe these things, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I believe these things are drones. They're surveillance drones coming from another dimension. And I mean, I'll get into more of what I think. I mean, it's impossible to know exactly what they're doing. But
Right,
you see so many like that, and then I've seen them in a group of 4, I've seen them in a group of 3, I've seen them single ones going. You know, you think, what is their purpose? They're coming from someplace else, so what are they doing? Right?
right.
And what is your impression, Stephen, just from seeing that video?
Well, let me say your assessment that they're not balloons is spot on. I'm not a upper atmosphere expert. I've done a lot of meteorology work in quantum imaging, a lot of various fields of study involving the atmosphere. And balloons in a what's called a turbulent flow. Let's say there's some kind of storm up there. It is possible that the balloons could get in a vortex and swirl around. Balloons let loose in a city is turbulent flow. In the streets and all, they can do crazy things. They can swirl around each other, go backwards, hitting all different kinds of eddies and vortices, can do really strange things. Up that high and the surrounding weather looks calm. That's more what's called a laminar flow. And you're right, Val, you're going to get all of them just kind of generally moving in the same direction and generally dispersing. What you see here is look like a three-ring circus, almost like they're having fun, just kind of chilling out and ice skating around each other. It's fascinating. You're right. I
Yeah.
would love to get that stabilized and
Mm-hmm.
upscaled and just put it on a loop and
Right.
watch it for an hour.
My impression of that when I analyzed it after taking it a year and a half ago was that they were kind of pairing off, like
Yeah, yeah,
kind of because
exactly.
you could see 2 or 3 in a group that like, okay,
Mhm.
we got our group, let's go this way. Okay, the
It
next
reminds me of a
group,
group ice skating where you'll see couples kind of pairing off. You're right. That's cool. Uh,
right.
I
And
concur.
the reason why I showed that video was not because we're going to analyze it. We're not going to analyze that right now. We may in a future episode.
Oh,
But the
yeah, I
reason
would
I
love to.
showed it was just to show my background in these objects that I'm seeing in the
Yes,
same part of the sky. And I saw another group on January 8th, and I'm not showing that video right now, but I actually had captured another group where four of them were coming from the right, moving from north west more to the south.
right,
And I had set my camera up that time on a tripod and just pointed it with its 55 millimeter Nikon 3500. I pointed towards the western sky, which is just right outside my porch, my front porch,
right,
and didn't see those objects either until later. And there was four moving across the same thing, a gliding pattern. And then simultaneously, three were moving across from the other side. These were all identical objects. The three that were moving from left to right, they actually made a 180. It's almost like they saw the other group coming and they're like, oh, I guess we better move, go back and find our place. We've already,
right,
this
right,
area is already covered, this
right.
territory is covered, so we better just go. They all did 180s,
Yeah,
and went the other way. And one of them did a vertical, straight up vertical, and then a 90-degree.
wow.
But I'm not going to show that video, but that's just, I'm trying to build the case that
Mhm.
I have seen these things with my own eyes. I've seen them on video before. And so it was a split second when I saw the July 5th one. It was only a split second. It was nothing that you even consciously think. It's just like, I knew this is a UAP, this is a UFO.
Mhm.
And I watched it for a few seconds, see that appendage thing show up just for me, I think. And then I'm running in, retrieving my cell phone right inside the front door. It was sitting there on the table. Grab it, come out. 30 seconds later, I'm able to capture something.
Yeah, let me interject something. I've known you for quite a while, and what occurs to me is that you have some sort of connection with the sky. I don't mean to get ethereal here, but it reminds me of Stella Lansing and others that have described they just get a knowing to go to the window, to go outside, to grab their camera, and these things appear. I think of this guy Carlos, and there's several. There's one in England. There's not a lot of people, but there are, I guess, five or six that I know of around the world that seem to have an uncanny connection with these things, and they know right where to be, right where to film it. And usually the captures are very plain and quite profound. I think of Yalchin is his name, the guy in Turkey that took the amazing video. He was told to buy a camera, go to that beach, and get ready. What say you on that? It's just my perception, but does that kind of ring a
Well,
bell?
I'm a Christian believer, and so I am not one that wants to communicate with these things, and I believe they are mostly from the dark side. Let's just put it
Right.
that way, because I actually have felt them. I feel things like after I take a video and I watch the video, I actually feel something that's there, whether it's dark, and most of the time it's dark. Sometimes it's neutral.
Right.
Um, Sometimes I will feel compelled to go out and video something. I think that God is allowing me to see this other world. He wants
Yeah.
me to see
Yes,
it. He
I
wants
agree.
me to document. He wants me to understand it. And now I'm conveying what I know.
Right.
Um, and I have there's things that I've seen since I was 11, 12 years old. So, I mean, going back in history when I was 11, 12 in this same area, and I've moved different places in the world in the United States, but I happened to be living in the same region when I was 11, 12. My father was working for the Department of Defense, and our family lived nearby. When I was 11, 12 years old, I saw a huge, this is 70s, 1970s. I saw a
Right.
huge luminescent object floating over the house next door, over their yard. And it was
Wow.
huge, and it was only maybe 80 feet up, right above the tree line. moving extremely slow, no sound. This is 70s, right? Probably about at least 50 feet in diameter, at least, probably 20 feet
Wow.
high. And I saw it again 6 months later, going the same exact path. So, I mean, I have a history of seeing these things. I don't go and look for them. I don't have, okay, it seems like I might have a passion for them. I have a curiosity. It's a
Right.
curiosity to
Right.
know the unknown, the unseen realm. You know, our Bible, for us, Stephen and I are Christians, so we believe that there's an unseen world. We're told about it. We were told it's called an invisible. It's the invisible creation of God, right? So God has his hand in this. He allows these things to exist. I don't want to interfere with their operations. I don't want to challenge them. I'm a human being and I can't challenge them. I can't catch them either.
Right.
In fact, you know, I believe that some of these things are coming into our atmosphere and from an interdimensional um, portal or some sort that's being spun up that's allowing us to see them, but they probably are not, they may not be real in the sense of being a solid object. They may be something that's being projected.
Projecting.
Right.
It's interesting. You brought up you're not going to challenge them. As you know, this is new to me. I wasn't a ufologist or into any high strangeness. I had some very bizarre things happen to me as a child, but farmer, mechanic, into physics like crazy. So this world that I've seen and been involved to, I've had to take crash courses in it in the last couple of years. And one of the things that the experts that do the tango with these things one on one have gotten injured. I think of Steve
Mm.
Leeah and Barry Fitzgerald. Uh, they said their intelligence is off the charts.
Oh, yes, definitely.
They know already all about you. They know
Mhm.
ahead of time. It seems like they have the mastery of uh, these guys that have challenged them and went toe to toe with them. Said we're like ants. But
Right.
as Christians, we have power over them. But if you notice, think of that scripture where the disciples were so enamored with the fact that they could cast out devils, that they had power over these things, and Jesus warned them, don't dwell on that, but rather dwell on the fact that your names are written in the book of life, something to that effect.
Right. Well, there's a
Um,
hierarchy too, you know, and there's a scripture, and I can't quote it right now, but basically, as humans, we're not supposed to rebuke these things as far as challenging them. We're supposed to say, "The Lord rebuke you." Well, like we have to
right,
go through
right,
Him.
right,
I am a human mortal. I am not a spirit being that has any power in my
right,
within myself. I have God's
right.
power, so I could, if I was threatened, I could call on God to help me. But I feel that I want to put kind of a magnifying lens on what I know about them and what they're
Yeah,
up to.
sure.
They're from the most of them are from the dark realm. Um, and they are watching us with these.
Watch this.
I
Oh,
believe
yeah.
these are surveillance drones and they are watching us. And this is only one little slice of what's going on out there. It's just one
Right,
element.
right,
They are routinely doing this, and I have a full-time job. I don't have time to go out there with my camera every day. But
right,
but I would say that if I did, I would see them every day. I
right.
think they're out there and this is their job. They're out there surveilling. What are they surveilling? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
how I believe they're surveilling us because they're going pretty low to the ground, like 400 feet up.
right,
I've seen them many times. They are, as we saw with that one video with the 30 plus of them, they seem to be rotating and then pairing off with each other to go do some operation. And
right.
they are interested in us. they could be getting signals from our phones. They could be trying to see our activities. I have no idea.
Right.
We can only guess. I mean, unless we actually can tap into their downloads, we wouldn't know what they're picking up.
Yeah.
They could be not only receiving, they could be transmitting as well.
Right.
So I mean, we can only speculate and based upon what we're seeing, but I have a healthy respect for them. I would never, under any circumstances, try to capture one, catch one, physically catch one. I would never challenge any of the things that are creating these things, those interdimensional beings that we believe are present. I would never challenge them. They are very powerful. They are allowed to exist. Our God is allowing them to coexist with us. He's
Right.
allowing it for a reason. I respect God and I respect these things. I have a good respect for them. They may be from the dark side, but I'm still coexisting with them. They may
Right.
be coming in and out of my dimension, but they are still coming into my dimension, right? They're still interacting with us
Yeah,
on
you're
some
rubbing
level.
elbows with them.
We're
Yeah, you're rubbing elbows.
certainly, and we think, oh gosh, well, why would I try to get along with them? Well, just like we can't control who our coworkers are, or who our relatives are, right? They're still in our family or they're still in our workplace. Some of them may have evil intentions towards us and sometimes act out on that by
Right.
stabbing us in the back or making us look bad or whatever, lying about us. We still have to live with them. We still have to live side by side with them. It's the same
Right.
thing, except these ones are more in extreme darkness. They're more of extreme. So I know that there is a darkness out there and I have a respect for it. And I'm shedding light on that darkness. I'm shedding light because I believe that we need to be aware of what's out there. And because these things could be very well influencing us in different ways.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, while you're speaking on that, why don't you take us to the quantum runs we did and show your next phase of this work that you've been doing.
Yeah, before we go to that, I just wanted to show the close-ups of the 30 plus objects
Okay, great.
and
Yeah.
the shape of those objects. So let me bring those up. Okay, this is a close-up of those objects, and you notice they're vertical. They're like in a vertical position.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is the one I took in January 10th of 2023. When you zoom in on it, you're seeing kind of an egg shape object.
Uh-huh.
And these have to be pretty tall. The one I'd seen in the binoculars in 2020 was, I'd estimate, about 6 feet tall. It's hard to know exactly, but we're talking
Yeah.
about this is way out in the distance. And they still we can see some definition in them.
Yeah.
And so I'll go to the next one. And this is just a filter that's showing the distinct object
Good
shape.
Lord. I'm itching to run this through the quantum process. This is, geez. And they're different. They generally hold the same shape, but they're different.
Right.
They're not cookie cutter balloons, all the same size, you know?
So now I'm getting back to the July 5th video now that we've explained all the background of how we know this is a UAP. And so right now I'm going to share a 71 frame GIF that Stephen created based upon the first zoomed in part of where I say in the video, this is not a bird.
Right.
So I'm going to share that GIF. This is what he has done his quantum run on, is this 71 frames of this object. I'm going to show an image that Stephen created of this object to show its shape. This is the July 5th one. So it looks similar to the ones that I did on January 2023. It's similar, except maybe it's not as vertical, not as oblong,
Yeah.
elongated. It's a similar object. So next, we're going to start delving into the quantum runs that Stephen did from the 71 frames of the video. So do you want to say something about this, Stephen?
Yes, I was going to say this is the RGB, and there's no deep dive quantum run done on it. It was just upscaled and a few enhancements. But one of the things you can see is predominant on the left-hand side, there is red, predominant color gradient. Then on the right-hand side, if you zoom out a little bit where you can see the bottom, you zoom out, you see that little bit of blue down there? That blue haze in the corner?
Down here?
Yeah, that whole area there. Go all around it with your cursor. It goes up to there. Yeah, keep going.
I
All
see
that
some
blue in
blue.
there, and
Yeah,
then
I
it
see a
turns
little
into
blue
green.
intertwined.
Right. What's
Mhm.
happening here is I've seen this enough to know that more than likely we're looking at a toroidal feature. Usually there is some kind of toroidal field, a donut, as it were, much like the tokamak and spheromax in fusion reactors, where there's a spin going on. And what's happening is your camera's making sense of it, that on the left-hand side, it could very well possibly be red shifted. The light is going away from your camera. And over here, more down towards the bottom, it's blue shifted. And that means the light is coming towards your lens. Where it begins to become green is a inverse mixture, in my opinion, of red and blue shifted light, which makes green. Red and blue makes green. And I'm fairly certain that's what we're seeing here. And of course, I know it is, because if you'll queue up the next run, we're going to see that toroidal feature once we did the quantum deep dive.
So next, we're going to see an MP4 that Stephen created that is based upon the quantum imaging of the 71 frames of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and share that. So here is the MP4 of those 71 frames. I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's going to kind of move pretty fast. I can slow it down maybe when it's halfway through. I can do a slow down feature. And Stephen, you can talk about this while it's going if you would like.
Sure. Okay, yeah, you can just keep it like this. What we're seeing is the UFO, as it's transiting the background feature that seems to be associated with it. And that's where we're seeing that toroidal field. You can see an axis in the middle, which is your poloidal field, and then
right in here, right?
Right in there, and then the toroidal field going around it, which is your horizontal donut, as it were. And
there's one over on this side, this one over here, and that one over here.
Right, and it seems like that's the real star of the show, and the UFO is just kind of the well, like the magician's hand is distracting you with something, and what's really going on in the background is what is behind it all, and that's what I feel is going on here. And it seems as though this object is able to function within the parameters of this overall background structure, and we see this a lot in UFOs. It's what they project and what they want you to see is actually, I call it a joke compared to what's really going on in the background.
What's really going on, which is the spinning, that the energy that's being spun in the background.
Yes, it's all part of a massive, it's like a pump, a dynamo, much of these things, I'm a farmer, I recognize them in centrifugal pumps, irrigation pumps, volutes, impellers, anyone watching is familiar with that. You can see it burping, flaring. It even looks like our work in cosmology around supermassive black holes. The accretion disk will flare and burp. We see the same thing here. It's very strange for me coming into this field recently after a background in cosmology, meteorology, and even nuclear weapon detonation work, of which I can't go into. To see these fields of study show up in the UAP UFO world is incredible, because it's like, whoa, wait a second, I saw this years ago in yada 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 work, but now I'm seeing it in the UFO.
Well, we can see the halo effect too. And you want to explain like, what
yeah,
that halo
it's
is? I can
warping.
see that. Like I'll start at the beginning again. It will start at the full speed, and then I'm going to slow it the speed down a little bit.
Yeah,
But
this
you
is the
notice
one
there's
where
a
I just kept
halo.
it looping on fast, right? There's another one that slows it down, I think.
Right. Right. But that
You can
halo
see it
effect,
warping the background.
you describe this as a lensing effect, right?
Yeah, right there, you can see it.
Mhm.
It's magnifying the background.
And that means that the way that you explain that to me is that it has something to do with them distorting time and space.
Yeah, there could be time dilation going on here. It's a space-time metric. Hal Puthoff mentions that these things blue shift anything that's around them. Whatever's lower on the scale gets blue shifted up to the next level of energy into soft X-rays, and that's why when you get close to these things, it can be harmful. And Dr. Gary Nolan, who I admire much, has stated that the power exhibited by these things, just one of them, is equal to like a nuclear power plant. Its total output to power a major city. And yet these things are able to harness it within the confinement of a little bitty dot like this. It's just, it boggles scientists.
What do you mean by these things? Are you talking about the toroidal energy field? Or are you talking about?
Yes, these objects, these UFOs,
Okay.
all of it together, the power exhibited out of seemingly nothing. I mean, there's no fuel, there's no batteries. You don't see any chemical. Usually, sometimes they'll drop a chemtrail or something, or emit slag on the ground or something. But usually, you see nothing. But yet they're producing light that is so powerful that people can't look at it. And they've done some estimates and retrieved some spectroscopy, or no, it's called something else, to where they can estimate the power generated, and it's off the charts. Uh, it's just incredible. So when you have that kind of power within a very small confined area, it's going to exhibit some strange things, and time dilation, missing time. People that get near it, they think they're gone 15 minutes and they've been gone 5 hours. That sort of thing goes on with it. So.
Right. And one other thing that I noticed is that this object is kind of shape-shifting. It's
Yes,
oscillating
you
a
can see
lot,
it.
changing its shape.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to move on to the next video,
Okay.
which is actually going to be pretty much the same thing, but it's going to be 5 times fast, 5 times slow. And then maybe you can explain when I play that one, what might be happening.
Yeah,
What
there's
might
the
be
flaring,
happening
the
in between.
burping, and the colloidal axes.